I'm Karen Kelly, and let's queer up the world view. More of Japan's women's universities open doors to trans students. Women's universities across Japan are slowly but noticeably moving toward greater inclusion of transgender students. A new nationwide survey by the Mainichi Shimbun found that 6 universities now allow trans women to enroll, with one more planning to do so. Among them are 2 public institutions, Tokyo's University and Nara Women's University, alongside 4 private schools. Fukuoka Women's University says it will begin accepting trans women in 2029. Another 16 universities are open to the idea, and 5 say they're seriously considering it. But 17 universities still do not approve admitting trans students, often citing inadequate facilities like multi-purpose restrooms. Some administrators point to larger structural barriers. As one representative told Tokyo Weekender, quote, "In Japan, legal frameworks concerning sexual minorities, including transgender individuals, are insufficient, and societal discussions have not progressed. Without a clear vision for promoting, understanding, gaining the understanding of students and parents, and requires a certain amount of time and careful dialogue," end quote. This slow process comes as Japan's LGBTQ community faces setbacks, including a late November Tokyo High Court ruling that the country's ban on same-sex marriage is constitutional, a decision likely headed to the Supreme Court. It takes baby steps. And, it's hard for me to understand how anyone could be denied higher education if they're smart enough to be admitted, quite frankly. So, but I like that there are universities, there are women's universities that are doing this in Japan. There are more planning to. And I believe that as they see this is not a big deal. They're just providing higher education, which makes society smarter, as we know. That they're going to see, all of these other universities are going to see that, hey, this isn't a problem. We can do this.
Progress in Japan is moving, and it's moving slowly, but it's moving, right? And more women's universities are opening their doors to trans women. And that's a big step in a country where legal protections lag far behind other countries. Is it perfect? No. But every school that says yes makes it harder for the next one to say no, right? So change is happening through conversation and compassion, and that really, really matters. Now, to those universities that say that they haven't opened up their doors to trans women because of inadequate facilities is a fucking joke. And I said that, okay? Is a fucking joke, okay? Because multi-purpose restrooms, you don't need to change anything with your current restrooms. Because guess what? Trans people use the bathroom the same way! Sorry.
It's true. I mean, seriously,
it's very true.
I read that and I went, really?
Don't come at me with that shit.
I'm like, really? You're blaming it on your bathroom? I mean, come on.
And I have a hard time with the correlation between, higher education and gender. It doesn't make a difference, It
does not.
In my opinion, women are smarter than men. Obviously, I'm sitting here with, 3 very intelligent, beautiful women, but it's, and coming from a place of higher education, this story made me remember when I was writing my dissertation for my PhD. And for anyone who's ever gone through a dissertation process, it's the most grueling thing because it will really humble you.
I remember you cried like twice.
Yeah, probably twice a day, But you have to describe something in a way that someone has never seen something before. So, and I wrote my dissertation on diversity, equity, inclusion, which are 3 words that are, essentially banned from our language these days. But when you talk about leadership in general, you'd be so surprised that when you look up things that are books that were written in the 60s and 70s, when they defined leadership, it's a white man. It had nothing to do with women being leaders, with minorities being leaders, with, forget LGBT, none of those groups were ever considered to be in leadership positions.
Yeah.
So I found that to be very, eye-opening, during that process.
Yeah, but it's even, if we go back to the slaves' time, they didn't want slaves to be educated. They didn't want them to learn to read, okay? Because why? Because an educated person is a powerful person, and that's someone that you have to be worried about. Same thing with women. Women are the first marginalized people ever.
Absolutely.
Ever.
Ever. We have been second-class citizens since the beginning of time, and we're still fighting for our rights. To then you want to add being black or brown to the. Then you want to add to it being LGBTQ. I mean,
can you imagine all those layers?
Layer
after layer after layer.
That we have to overcome. Yeah.
And when I think about this, I know we're talking about Japan, they're not here, but it makes me think about when you just said how they used to treat the slaves, because, hey, when you learn, that's liberation.
You start to question.
That's liberation. Yeah. So when you think about the fact that here in the United States, specifically here in Florida, they're trying to track trans people who are going to school and are trying to keep them from going to school here in the state of Florida.
Yeah.
So it's like, you know what? We don't want these people to learn and to get educated because then that goes towards our liberation.
Yeah.
Yep.
They want to keep their foot on our necks.
Right.
Yeah, but also even with the education, right, and banning books, they want people stupid. They want these kids to be stupid.
They want them poor, stupid, and sick.
No.
And that stops them from becoming powerful and
from having opinions.
Imagine if they're denying somebody that would go on to higher education that is going to find a cure for cancer.
Right.
Or find something that will be such a blessing to humanity.
Or be the next MLK.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
That will not be able to be enhanced or even shown
Yes.
upon, if they're being held down that way.
And if our government has their way, there'll be a place where they'll be like, who is MLK? And what did he do?
Like he never existed.
And what happened? Because to me, like, if you don't learn about these things, and you're not able to learn from your mistakes, then these things can continue to happen
over and over.
And I think that's part of what they're playing.
Right.
Wow.
Well, there is no other queer nonprofit media platform like this in the entire world. Support our LGBTQ stories by sharing them and subscribing to Queer News Tonight.